Hey everyone, welcome to the Pre-algebra 1.4 video. We're talking all about comparing and ordering integers today. So what's an integer? Well, simply, it's just a positive or negative non-decimal number. Okay, so 4 is an integer. Negative 4 is also an integer. 2.2, though, is not an integer. Negative 4.7 is also not an integer. So positive or negative non-decimal numbers. Now, these are numbers we generally see on a number line, right? Start at 0, that'd be 1, that'd be negative 1, so on and so forth. Okay, so integers. We'll call this thing number 1. So item number 2, let's just kind of talk about some numbers and what numbers are bigger, smaller, so on and so forth. Okay, so 8 and 5, which one's the larger? Well, obviously 8 is the larger. Okay, how about negative 8 and negative 5 though? Which one's the larger? Well, in this case, it's actually negative 5. Now, why is that? Well, when we talk about a number being larger, okay, if we're talking about two negative numbers, we're talking about which one's closer to 0. Okay, so negative 5 would be right there, but negative 8 would be right there. Okay, so which one is closer to 0? Well, it's actually negative 5, as we said, okay, or that guy right there. Alright, so let's next talk about absolute value. What is absolute value? Well, it's just the distance that a number is from 0 on a number line. So if I wanted to know what the absolute value of 8 is, well, I could draw a number line and say, okay, we're going to put 0 there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 right there. And I'm going to figure out, alright, how far is 8 from 0? Well, it'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so the absolute value of 8 is, well, 8, because it was that distance right there. Now, one of the things about absolute value is that it's also always positive. Okay, so because it's like, counting distance, right? So if here's Dallas, and here's Austin, and we say to go from Austin to Dallas is, I don't know, what is it? 250 miles? I was off. It's pretty much 200 miles, okay? If you start in Austin and go up to Dallas, we'd say it's 200 miles. But if you start in Dallas and go to Austin, we would still say it's 200 miles. It's not negative 200 miles. So it's the same thing here, right? Just because we're starting at 8, figuring out how far is it from 0, we are traveling left. And a lot of times when we hear left in math and in algebra, we think negative. But it's not. We're just talking about distance. It is 8 units away from 0. So one of the ways we talk about absolute value, okay, is by using these. Okay, 2 bars like that. So if I want to know what the absolute value of 7 is, I might say that. What that means is, what is the absolute value of 7? Okay, well, how far away is 7 from 0 on a number line? Well, it's 7. Okay. How about the absolute value of negative 5, though? What does that equal? Well, on a number line, that's 0. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. Negative 5 is right there. How far away is that from 0? Well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it's positive. Remember, absolute value is always positive. So you can see absolute value is pretty easy because it's whatever that number is, just the positive version if it's not already positive anyway, such as this. Alright, so let's talk about opposite numbers. It's pretty much what you think it is. Like, what's the opposite of 8? Well, it'd be negative 8. But they're opposite for this reason. They are the same distance from 0 on a number line. Right? So if that's 0, here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Negative 8, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I guess I could have made those bigger. Anyway, they are the same distance, right? To go from negative 8 to 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. To go from 8 to 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 there, 8 there. They have the same absolute value, therefore they are by definition opposite. Alright, so I want you to take a second and I want you to evaluate this expression when y is negative 5. So pause the video, try it, play it when you're done. Alright, so when it says evaluate when y equals negative 5, it means, hey, I'm going to take that negative 5 and put it in wherever I see y. So what does this thing mean? Well, it means absolute value. So really that's like saying, what's the absolute value of negative 5? Well, how far away is negative 5 from 0 on a number line? It's 5 spaces, and that's your answer. Okay, So what about something like this, though? Let's say y is still negative 5. How about 4 minus the absolute value of y? Well, that'd be like saying 4 minus the absolute value of, again, we said negative 5. So that'd be like saying 4 minus, well, the absolute value of negative 5 is 5. So that would equal negative 1. All right, so real quick, let's talk about something we run into a lot. And that's, again, we're talking about evaluating when a variable is equal to some number. But what if we saw that? And they said evaluate when x equals negative 4. Well, what does that mean? Well, let's talk about what this thing means. Negative x, what does it actually mean? Well, remember, if you have a negative sign next to anything, it means negative 1 times that thing. So it means negative 1 times x. Just like negative 5 is actually the same as saying negative 1 times 5. Negative x means negative 1 times x. So if that's the case, and we're evaluating when x is negative 4, we're going to take that negative 4, put that in right there. So really this is like saying negative 1 times, well, negative 4, and I should have those in parentheses because they're negative. Negative 1 times negative 4. Well, a negative times a negative is always a positive, okay, and it'd be positive 4. Now let me show you something that Lauren Hewa showed me last year. And that is called the positive-negative tic-tac-toe. Okay, so here I have tic-tac-toe, and from top left to bottom right, I'm going to go positive, 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 and everything else is going to be filled in with negative. And this is for use with multiplication and division only. So if you have a negative number, like a negative 5, times 8, and you want to know what's the sign of the answer, well, you can start with a negative. So find a negative up here anywhere that's on an edge. Okay, so I'll use this one, but I could use this one, this one, this one, this one, or this one if I want to. But anyway, I'll start here. And I'm going to move, let's see, any direction will tell me the correct answer. This is what I mean. A negative times a positive should equal, well, let's see, a negative times a positive should equal a negative. Okay, this was a negative, that was a positive, so I followed the diagonal order, and it tells me that my answer is going to be negative. And it's going to be negative what? 40. So try it for maybe this one. How about negative 2 times negative 7? What's that going to equal? Well, if you want to be sure of the sign, you're starting with a negative, so find a negative. Then find a negative sign that's next to that first one. So you could go this way or this way. I'll go this way. And let's see, it's going to be, well, the next thing in line is going to be the sign of our answer. So a negative times a negative is a positive. Negative times a negative is a positive. And it's going to be positive, in this case, 14. So I thought that's really cool. That's a good, helpful tool. Thank you, Lauren Hewa. And to you guys, that's all I have for you. Look forward to seeing you guys in class.